In the prologue of the book of Job, Job is introduced as a blameless and upright man, one who feared God and turned away from evil. We sometimes get a little nervous about the word blameless, literally perfect in Hebrew, because we tend to bristle at people being called perfect that aren't named Jesus. But I want to sort of put you at ease a little bit about that. The Bible is trying to go out of its way to make very clear here at the very beginning of the story, in those first 6 verses, that Job does absolutely nothing to merit what comes later. You can't draw any line between Job's behavior and that which is befalling Job. The Bible wants to make that clear from the very beginning, that there's no cause and response, that there's no cause and effect, there's no response here that fits his actions. There is absolutely no connection, which is actually one of the things that bothers Job. We'll see later on, is there's nothing in here that he deserves. But we're given a list of his animals and his great wealth and established that he's a righteous person. And then Hasatan comes to present himself before God, which is apparently not an unusual action at all after he was touring the earth. And it is God who brings up Job and says, "Have you considered my servant Job?" And Hasatan says, "Well, I'd like to, but you've blessed everything he has. It's good business. I can't tell his motives because he's going to be obedient because you bless him for being obedient. If you take that away, then we can know." In fact, Job in chapter 1, verse 9 asks, Satan, Hasatan, asks in chapter 1, verse 9, one of the most important questions in the book of Job, and that is, does Job fear God for nothing? I think that is going to be a very important question later on when we're looking at interpreting this book. But God, in an effort, it seems, to test the motives of Job, agrees to let Hasatan remove everything from Job except his health or his life. So Hasatan goes out, all of Job's wealth is gone, he loses all of his animals, the house falls in on his children, and Job mourns, but Job doesn't ever renounce God. In fact, we see in chapter 1, verse 20, Job arose, tore his robe, shaved his head, fell on the ground, and worshipped. He said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, naked shall I return there. Yahweh gave, and Yahweh has taken away. Blessed be the name of Yahweh." In all this, Job did not sin or charge God with wrongdoing. Perhaps you know the song, a very popular praise song, "Blessed be the name of the Lord. You give and take away." This is the passage it comes from. I've always found it to be important to consider context when singing these songs. It's one of those times when, if you really knew where that text came from, you might not want to sing that song anymore, because this is coming from a profound statement of faith when Job has lost everything. Well, it seems that Hasatan is wrong. God is right. Ha ha. Job wins, except chapter 2 comes along. So Hasatan again appears before God. God again points out Job, at which point, if Job knew about it, he had to be thinking, would you shut up? Stop bringing this up. But God points out Job, his faithful servant, says, "You incited me against him for no reason." Hasatan suggests a second trial in which he will make sure that Job is going to serve God for nothing, because it seems that Job has his health, and as long as you've got your health, well, you've got everything. So God agrees to allow Hasatan to take away Job's health, but not his life. So Job gets terrible sores from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. He would sit and scrape himself with pieces of broken pottery, and provokes response to those that are close to him. His wife says, "Why do you still persist in your integrity? Curse God and die." Now, his wife's response over the years has always been seen, I think, as decidedly negative. Now, and let me make very clear, I am certainly anti-curse God. I just want to make that absolutely, I want to be misunderstood here. I am pro-love God, anti-curse God. And so when you hear me defending his wife, don't hear me defending cursing God. But I do think that in this world, there are things that are worse than death. There are levels of suffering that are worse than death. My wife is a hospice chaplain. She has seen circumstances where people's continued living is actually less preferable to the release of death. So I think it is possible to read a sympathetic response in Job's wife and see that she sees someone that she loves suffering so badly. Just give up. Stop trying to win against God. You're not going to win against God. Just give up your integrity, give up being right. She acknowledges apparently that he's right. Give that up and curse God and die. Just go. You're hurting too bad. But Job does not appreciate her advice. He calls her a stupid woman and decides to persist in his integrity. He has 3 friends who show up. Might want to put friends in quotes. I don't know. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar arrive. And they are so overwhelmed by Job's new appearance, his sores, and he looks so bad, that they simply sit with him in silent sympathy for a full week. Let me say that this is the best thing the friends do in the entire story. They actually spend a week providing ministry of presence, as it's called in pastoral care terms, to Job as they just sit there and they just sit with him. There's nothing to say. They just abide with him. Unfortunately, that's not the way the story ends for them. They decide to start speaking for God very, very shortly. But at least right now, they're still the good guys. Some thoughts on the beginning of Job.